Welcome to AI Innovators. We're a new startup with a big dream to demystify AI for everyone, from the curious individual to the global businesses. But here's the deal. We need you to make this dream a reality. So we're opening up our doors to interns, and no, that does not mean you have to be young to join us. So what do we value? We value your passion for AI and the unique skills that you can bring to the table. Are you a whiz at video editing with AI? Maybe you're the social media guru that we've been searching for. Or perhaps you've got a knack for creating compelling blogs and articles using AI and your brain. And if you're always on the hunt for the latest AI, then you're probably that researcher we need. But there's more. If you've got the skill to craft engaging training videos, we want to hear from you. We're also on the lookout for podcasters to create captivating shows. Do you know someone who'd be a fantastic guest for the show? Let us know. Or maybe you've got the AI expertise and some humor to help co-host with us. We're all ears right now, so bring us your suggestions and leave them down below in the comments. Join us at this pivotal starting point, because together we'll not only shape the future of AI for hundreds of thousands of people, but we'll also build a community where every voice matters, because we want to hear your opinion on AI. So what do you say? Ready to innovate, collaborate, and leave a mark? Click the link below and contact us, and let's get this AI movement rolling with AI Innovators. There is great power in community, so if you know someone who'd like to be a part of what we're doing, share the love, share the link. All right, now enjoy the AI Innovator Show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the AI Innovators podcast, where we delve deep into the world of artificial intelligence, bringing you face-to-face with the trailblazers and visionaries of the tech world. I'm the founder of AI Innovators and your host, Gil Hodges.
And I'm your co-host, Natalie. For new listeners here at AI Innovators, we love unraveling the mysteries of AI and discussing its impact in business, society, and our daily lives.
Today is especially exciting because we're joined by a very special guest from Sindarin Ventures, a company at the forefront of adding conversational speech AI to businesses.
Yes, I had the pleasure of connecting with our guest first at an AI discussion dinner and was thrilled to bring him on the podcast today. So let's welcome our guest and the founder of Sindarin Ventures, Brian Atwood.
Brian, why don't you go ahead, if you don't mind, in sharing a little bit of your background. It's like, what in the world got you into AI, and how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, so it goes pretty far back into my personal history. I would say about 10 years ago, before I moved here to Austin, I was in a PhD program in cognition, brain, and behavior, which was a mix of cognitive science and linguistics and neuroscience. And at the time that I was in that program, the sort of relationship between neuroscience and machine learning and AI was like beginning to become a little bit more prominent within academia. Machine learning hadn't nearly come to the point where it is now, but from my perspective, the writing was on the wall about the future of those two disciplines, neuroscience and machine learning. And it felt pretty clear to me that as GPUs became more powerful and as the algorithms running on them became more sophisticated, we were going to get AI eventually.
Yeah.
And so I ended up leaving that PhD program pretty quickly, and I moved down to Austin. I was originally going to go out to the Bay Area, as everybody tends to do when they want to move into tech. But I just visited Austin because I had a cousin living here. And I thought that it was just going to be a brief visit on the way out to the Bay Area. But Austin surprised me with a lot of things. Coming from the Northeast, I thought that I was literally picturing tumbleweeds. And instead, it's this incredible city with incredible people and a much larger and faster growing tech scene than I had anticipated. Yeah. And so I never made it out to the West Coast. And so I've been here for about 9 years working on tech startups in one form or another ever since. And as far as AI in particular, I've done some machine learning projects in professional roles at other companies. And I was playing around with language models just before GPT-3 came out, and they were very hard to work with. The barrier to entry to working with cutting edge NLP tools, even in 2020, was pretty high. And then when OpenAI released the GPT-3 API, that reduced the friction by a lot, but it was still very limited because it hadn't yet been instruction tuned, which is one of the key innovations to making it really useful for non-experts. And around then, that was probably in 2021, it became very clear to me that things were about to get really interesting. Mm-hmm. And fast forward to 2022, and I decided to go all in on it and haven't looked back.
Wow. So then how did you get to Sindarin? It's your company, correct?
Yep.
And what does the name Sindarin come from?
It comes from the Lord of the Rings, and it's one of the Elvish languages. It's a little bit easier to pronounce than the other prominent Elvish language, which is why I picked it. And the reason for it is that I've believed for a long time, going back a few years, like I was saying, that speech in particular is a very interesting and a very powerful medium for computing. And so going back to the name of Sindarin, in the Lord of the Rings, when you see Gandalf speaking in Elvish tongue, or maybe some of the elves, sometimes they're speaking Sindarin, and then seemingly magical things happen. And so what I think is going to be happening in the very near future now is a lot of people are going to be having the experience for the first time of feeling like they are essentially enacting magic using just their voice. And of course, we've all seen voice assistants. Voice assistants have been around for years, but they've been very limited. And happy to get into kind of the difference between what I think we're about to see and what we've seen from voice assistants for the last few years.
Why don't you go ahead and go into that? Because I was just thinking, when you shared it with me and I clicked on your links and went and checked them out, I'm like, this is seriously what I would love to see. And I'm surprised it hasn't come out yet. But you also mentioned that it's a lot harder than it looks, or one would think. And I don't have the technological background that you've got. So tell us a little bit more about the differences and maybe why it's such a challenge.
Sure. So in terms of where we're coming from with the technology, the voice assistants that everybody knows so far, like Siri, Alexa, the sorts that you deal with on the phone when you call a large business and you have to navigate a call tree. The way that those work internally is that someone or multiple people have to explicitly configure essentially every behavior that those assistants can take. And if you're a business owner and you want an AI voice assistant of the previous generation representing your company, your only choice is to learn how to work with a very complicated interface, or hire somebody who's already gone through the pain of learning a very complicated interface. And you need to painstakingly configure every possible decision or action that thing can take. They've gotten a little bit better over the years. We started out with pressing 2 for sales and pressing 3 for customer service and whatever. It's gone from that to now you can say sales and it will know how to route that. But somebody within the company still needs to explicitly tag that sales means sales. If someone says sales, then you should go there. And so if you imagine the difference between talking to a human and the difference and talking to one of those things, a human can have virtually unlimited flexibility and just figure out in real time what the person wants, whereas these systems are extremely rigid. So there's a very high barrier to entry for them. That's why most small businesses don't bother with them, because if they even bother to look into them, they very quickly realize, whoa, this is going to be a lot of effort. And if you could just hire a person for $10 to $15 to $20 an hour to answer a phone or do something similar, it's a lot easier to just train a human being to talk to your customers than to configure and maintain one of these very complicated pieces of software. So that's where we're coming from. And where we're headed is essentially AI employees that have perfect memory, that can be trained in the same way that human employees can be trained, can have any voice, can have any personality, and can have an arbitrarily large amount of knowledge about the company's operations, about its inventory, about its policies. And on top of all of that, it can have an ongoing conversation. Whereas Siri, Alexa, none of these agents have ever been able to hold a real open-ended, ongoing, real-time conversation.
I'm assuming that there's probably other companies out there that are trying to develop this technology. And the first thing that comes to my mind, probably a lot of other people as well, is Jarvis on Iron Man, where you're having the conversation with the AI and it's as if it's a real person. How far away do you think we are from something like that? That's what you're working on, right?
Yeah.
So how far away are you to having that ready to start being integrated into businesses? And is it going to be something for personal use as well?
It's already starting. I would say the major challenge lately for these kinds of tools has been the latency between when the human finishes speaking and when the AI starts speaking.
Yeah.
That's a really difficult thing to overcome. And that's one of the things that our product has done a really good job of solving. It's the kind of thing where Moore's law tells us that even if we did nothing, that would happen anyway within a certain period of time, because computing always gets faster and cheaper. But we've accelerated that future a little bit by putting in extra work into making it really fast. It's already happening. We are running multiple pilots with companies today to automate certain roles that are typically done over the phone. And then in the not too distant future, potentially even in person, like in retail spaces.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So could this be something that could be integrated on a website in place of a chat bot that you would actually hear and be able to have a conversation? How soon is that looking before you get something like that rolled out?
Yeah, I think you saw this, and anybody watching can see we have a pitch deck that you can find at deck.sindarin.tech. And that deck is completely led by one of our AI personas. The only way to interact with the deck is to speak with it. So we deliberately removed the ability to navigate with a mouse or a keyboard. And some people have complained about that, and they've said, we just want to read your deck. We have a separate deck for the Luddites who don't want to speak with AI personas. But the point of that deck is to demonstrate that we're pretty much at that point where a website, a mobile app, any computer interface can now have a conversation with you. It's not perfect. It's not the best demonstration of our technology, because all it really does is go left and right. But that's just a limitation of our limited time and resources. And I guess you'll just have to take my word for it that the sorts of interactions can be much more interesting than just, navigating one page to another on a pitch deck.
Love that. And obviously, you've probably seen the movie, so Her and the interaction. That's obviously a personal AI that develops a personality and goes through that whole process. But again, how soon might somebody expect to be able to just download this on their phone or their computer and have this constant cloud AI that interacts with them at just about every level? Is that still a ways off?
So I love that movie, Her. It's in a category of movies that there's only maybe 4 movies in this category that I've believed ever since I saw them that these were particularly prescient about how the future is going to play out.
Yeah.
The personal AI is really interesting. I have a software project from 2020, 2021 called Project Her, where I was trying to get started building this thing. And a lot of people have this dream. And I personally know a lot of people who are working on such a thing as we speak. I think In terms of, if you look at where, for example, our technology is right now, if you interact with the deck, or we also have another demo called smarterchild.chat that you can check out, that gives you somewhat of a sense of where the real-time conversational speech tech is at. There are other people who are working on ways to record your entire life, typically using just a microphone that's mounted somewhere on your person. And in terms of her, all you really need, in theory anyway, is to merge the tech that we are building, which is more of the real-time conversational speech engine, and the kind of long-running microphone mounted somewhere on your body that's recording everything that you experience. There are yet other companies who are working on essentially recording everything that happens on your computer. So every button you press, they're logging this, and then they're passing it into a language model like GPT-4 to extract what are you experiencing. So we're not too far off from somebody integrating all of these data streams into a product like her. The real question is who's going to do it? What is it going to take to merge all of these technologies together to create that experience? And then there are also really significant questions around privacy and security, because that's the most intimate technology that we will have ever had. A microphone listening to everything that you experience, reading everything that you see on your computer. That's an enormous amount of trust that you would need to put in the provider of such a service. And so we're getting close, but it's going to be very challenging, I think, to be the one that really nails that whole experience. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Apple ultimately.
Well, and then Stability AI with Ahmad Mustaq. I don't know if you're aware of him or anything he's doing, but he's determined to, and I think he said this 3 months ago, but that within a year's time that they would be getting an AI, personal AI, into the hands of anybody who wants it. If you want to buy it, it's going to be available to you on your phone and for businesses so that everybody can personalize their AI. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it until it goes bad, okay? I'm like, if it's all good and it stays good, I'm all for it. But there's obviously the ethical issues and a lot of fear and paranoia out there that I'm not going to live on that side. I'm going to live on the side where I'm believing it's going to be good for us. And yes, we do need to approach it all very responsibly and do what we can to keep things aligned with human interests and so forth. But I'm excited about it all. I'm wondering if Ahmad's going to be one of those that, because puts the AI into the hands of everybody, that then along comes your voice integration, and you may be getting close to that Jarvis type environment. It should be pretty cool.
Yeah, the great news for that initiative is that there is an enormous amount of open source activity around open source language models, open source computer vision models, open source audio models. And so Stability, like you mentioned, is one of the players, but there are quite a lot. There's another organization called Open Assistant that's doing similar things. I wish I had a list off the top of my head because I really appreciate all these people. It'll be interesting to see as far as self-hosting the entire stack, so to speak. A language model that you own that's even potentially running on your phone, plus computer vision models and other kinds of models. You actually need a very, at least right now, you need a very large number of machine learning models running in tandem to pull off something like her. And the hardware to do that on a phone just is not even close to there. If you care about real-time interaction, her running on an iPhone, in theory, you might be able to get it working. It's just going to take a minute or two for her to respond to everything you say. And so that's the main reason why, I think most of the companies that are cloud-based that are providing these kinds of capabilities are going to have an edge for at least a couple more years, because we're running extremely large GPUs in data centers that no individual person can possibly carry on themselves, and certainly doesn't want to host in their own home. But I do think that there could be a very interesting future not too long from now, where in the same way that people have had pretty sizable PCs running in their homes, it might be worth it to self-host a fairly powerful server in the privacy of your own home that has a link to your mobile device that's encrypted. And you can have a personal AI that way. It's just going to cost a lot of money in the short term.
Yeah. Let's go back to your company. What do you think sets Sindarin apart from maybe some other companies that are coming up? Because you obviously got some specific focuses that you think are going to give you the edge over some of these other companies. What are some of those differences?
Yeah, we are completely obsessed with doing empathic, fast, real-time conversational speech. And
yeah,
it's actually a really difficult problem. And if your benchmark is interacting with a human, and it's particularly a human who is also empathic and fast, at least in terms of kind of their ability to think, it's a really high bar. And so the difference between someone hacking together a demo of talking to a computer in a weekend versus something that would really feel very natural, very, very empathic and personable, to the extent that a business would be willing to have that agent representing them, is a very considerable one. And then on top of that, it's just like all of the issues around packaging a product for sale to a real customer. One of the main ones that we're dealing with is, like I said earlier, what a business essentially wants is the equivalent of an employee, but better in every possible way. And that's what we all imagine when we think about the kind of the AI future. And that's not only on the way that the employee interacts with customers, it's also on how the employer interacts with the employee. So there's an entire other side of things that's employer facing, which is how do you allow the employer to train an AI faster than they train a human, have more insight into the behavior of the AI than they would have into a human employee, and have more confidence and trust in an AI employee than a human employee. So those are all really hard things to do well. So
yeah, and I've heard heard your demo, which sounded really good. And then I listened to some other demos of some other companies. And that gap between the time that the person finishes speaking, the real person, and then the AI takes over, it's okay, that's just awkward. And when you got that gap after every time I stop speaking, I can tell you that if I were speaking to that AI and actually thought it was a person, that with that gap there, I'm thinking, oh, I'm probably going to say something again, start trying to talk again while that AI is thinking about what it's going to say next. So that gap is it's got to go.
Yeah, as I said, we've put a lot of work into minimizing that gap. So as far as I know, we have the lowest latency there on average of any solution that's out there right now. And it's only going to get faster. Yeah. Now it's as slow as it's ever going to be.
And I was just thinking about it. It's like, it's funny because human beings, we put that gap in there. It's just we fill it with, and then we start talking, but it's there even with humans. So Natalie, you got some questions?
Yeah, discussed businesses really wanting to replace some of these phone jobs, but obviously for them, there's the resistance there in taking the leap into AI. So what's your kind of pitch to them? What are the immediate benefits they can expect?
Yeah, I personally haven't seen too much resistance, at least at a very high level, in terms of, is this something we want to do or not? I think generally most businesses that we've spoken to, they have maybe there is a little bit of resistance. I'll tell you how it looks. The resistance is, that seems a little bit creepy. But typically the next thought is, on the other hand, we've all known this was coming it almost our entire lives, because we've all seen sci-fi. And in a weird way, even though this is like incredible technology, there's another sense in which it's not particularly surprising to anyone, because we've seen so much sci-fi that now it's just becoming a reality. The pitch is pretty straightforward to a business, which is you can have an employee who knows everything that you want them to know about your business. They don't forget details about your products, about your inventory, about your policies and your company public image. They're available 24/7. They don't get tired. They don't have off days. They don't have sick days. And you can effectively mold them to be any sort of persona that you want them to be. And they're cheaper than humans. And I think it's kind of a no-brainer from most businesses' perspective. And I think these can be touchy subjects. It's very hard to get around the idea that AI agents are going to be competing with humans doing jobs. Something at least that we've seen in some of the customers that we're talking to is the humans who are currently doing these kinds of jobs, they generally hate their job. They generally don't last very long. Some of the attrition in some of these roles can be as high as 95% within a year. So 19 out of 20 humans who enter into these jobs are gone within 12 months anyway. And when they are still doing the job, they hate every day of it.
I think the term that I've heard several times is that AI is really going to come in, and even the robotic side of it, when that starts to come in, it's going to be probably taking over what they call the deadly, dull, and dirty. Those jobs that people, they're bored, it's dull, it's dirty, it's nasty, or it's dangerous. And those are the jobs that AI is going to probably take over first. I shouldn't say first. When you just look at the copy and editing and that section, it's going pretty fast, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's one of the weirdest things about how this has played out so far is like concept art was one of the first major sort of roles to be automated really well. And who would have thought?
Right. Yeah.
I would, at this rate, I wouldn't be confident saying that anyone's not going to be automated in the next few years. I think I wouldn't be surprised if entire podcasts are going to be automated, and the three of us there'll be automated CEOs and automated podcast hosts and automated co-hosts, and they'll all be better
playing with some of that stuff already, and I'm like, I haven't found anything that does it well enough yet, but it's close, and it's going to get there faster than we can. It's. So with that idea, how close are we to some of this stuff? I keep hearing, even again, Ahmad and what they're working on, they're talking about the possibility that someone's going to be able to just type in a prompt of a little story and have a blockbuster Hollywood style movie come out. And that's going to be available, they're saying, in the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. That's amazing. And so I can't help but think that what you're doing is going to be coming up a lot quicker than people think. And yeah, the big businesses know it. And unfortunately, the small business people and so forth that aren't catching on to this and they're afraid of it for whatever reason. Unfortunately, it's going to put a lot of people in the dust to where it's going to be hard to recover. That might not be the case, because if they do decide to adapt and come on, I think it's going to be so automated, and that it's like, here, push that button and say yes. And then boom, you got a whole AI system integrated into your computer. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak exactly to his timelines on blockbuster movies. At the rate things are going, 2 years feels like a pretty long time from now. And so I'm reluctant to scoff at any prediction at this point.
Yeah.
Where we're at right now, as far as I can tell with text to video, is you can get some really interesting looking like 10-second segments. I don't know exactly what the technical hurdles are to going from 10 seconds to 2 hours. But I would also speculate that a blockbuster movie may not even be that interesting of an experience by the time that an AI can generate it, because alternatively, you can have your own real-time interactive blockbuster where you're the hero, wearing an Apple Vision Pro, and you can generate the entire storyline and all of the hooks and
be part of it.
So why would you want to sit back but I think maybe that's more what it will look like, is that you'll be driving the thing with your own preferences in real time, rather than just like passive, some movie studio generating one of these things and then putting it out in a movie theater for everyone to watch.
Yeah. So I feel we should ask the question of just about everybody we have on the show, just because I think it's relevant, and it's not the fun part, but innovations that are coming out.
Yeah, privacy is obviously a huge one. Any sort of product that is listening to you, to even if it's with the best of intentions, like to be a mental health assistant or something like that, there's a very significant difference between that running on your phone or on your computer versus running in the cloud somewhere. It seems like privacy is generally a losing battle. I think like the arc of technology is that it becomes more invasive, generally speaking, and it becomes more centralized in the hands of companies. But if you're a privacy-minded person, that's the sort of thing to think about. I also personally think we're in this really weird stage where we're not quite at what OpenAI would call AGI, but we seem to be on the path toward it. And in the meantime, before we get there, I think we're going to enter into a period of really dramatic volatility, at least from an economic perspective, like entire classes of people being automated in a relatively short period of time by some technological unlock, like we saw with Midjourney and certain types of design and art, or GPT with copywriting, like you mentioned. And so I think this is going to keep happening. There's like entire roles in the economy will be automated in one fell swoop, and some companies that are responsible for that will make a lot of money in a relatively short period of time doing that. And I think it feels inevitable that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it also feels inevitable that not too long after that period, we will start having like fundamental scientific unlocks where AI discovers new laws of physics or new chemical principles that lead to new drugs that cure cancer and increase human lifespan. And so it feels like we need to weather this storm over the next few years where there's the potential for major disruption. But then after that, if we can make it through this period, there could be enormous, bountiful post-scarcity, as some people call it.
I'm pretty much 100% with you on all of that. There's going to be a season of dystopia as we go through the dramatic changes of AI taking over so many different things. But then if we can last through that, then ideally we should be starting to move into more of a utopia. And how extensive that would be, who knows? But just that AI is going to solve a lot of problems. And my thing is, I'm waiting for AI to teach us how to make better quantum computers. And then once you put the AI and the quantum together, to me, it's like game over. It's going to figure out everything, and hopefully it likes us.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are two major risks. There's like the existential risk of the AI that kills everyone because of, for whatever reason. I don't think that's the number one concern right now.
I'm with you.
I think much more concerning is how do we govern ourselves in a society where machines can pretty much do all of the jobs that we've become accustomed to doing better than we can do them? And do we need to restructure things in some very fundamental way so that it's not a total, utter dystopia where one company owns everything, or a company along with a government owns absolutely everything and has complete surveillance? So I think that's like a much, much more significant risk, in my opinion, in the near future.
Yeah. And I feel like it's human beings have been very resilient. And it's if 200 years ago, if we could go back 200 years and talk to somebody who's out farming in the field, and we said, yeah, there's going to be three of us, and we're going to be on this podcast thing. It's going to have pictures of us, and we're going to just be talking to one another. And for me, that's how I make my living. And that guy's going to look at me and think, what in the world are you talking about? So on the other side of this, when AI has taken over so many different positions to where human beings got to figure out what to do next, I think we'll figure it out. I really do.
Yeah, I guess my sort of pet theory is that there is such a thing as human nature, and human nature won't change. And if you want a preview of what we will be doing with all of the free time that we have, I think it'll basically be the same sorts of things that we've been doing with free time forever, which is playing, competing, creating, sitting around being entertained. So this is why I think that Wall-E is also up there with her in terms of good predictions of the future.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I want to go ahead and wrap things up here a little bit, but Natalie, do you have any other questions before we wrap it up here?
No, my comment on kind of the future and is just I wonder how much humans will feel like they still have a purpose. And I feel like eventually it will come full circle where human interaction will become more valuable.
I would agree with that. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person, but I believe it's going to give people more time to go into that meditative place and really understand more of who we are, human beings versus human doings. And all of us are, I'm big time into the human doing. And I try to keep backing off that to just learn how to be and build relationships, because to me, that's what's important.
I really hope you're right. And I think like sometimes the way I think about it is, to a degree, all work that we must do in order to keep everything running is a little bit dehumanizing. Nobody really wants to be grinding at something just to make money all the time. Even if you have an itch to compete and to win, there are probably ways of doing that would be more fulfilling than just working. And so I think we will still have opportunities to compete and to be excellent for the people who want to do that. But yeah, I agree. There will be a period of time where doing labor just won't make sense as an outlet for that, because there will be a machine that can do it better and faster.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited about the future. Very excited about it. Yeah, I think we're going to have a little bit of a challenge getting to the other side, but as fast as it's moving, if we don't blow something up, I think we're going to get there fairly rapidly. Probably I'm thinking the next 7 to 10 years, we're going to be able to see pretty clearly where this is all going.
Yep. Agreed.
Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have any final thing you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
I guess a little bit of a shameless plug. You mentioned small businesses getting left in the lurch. We are working with some small businesses right now. We would love to work with more small businesses. And so thanks for showing the website there. Yeah, you can head to the website. You can pretty easily find my contact information there. You can chat with me personally. We'd love to talk with businesses in Austin, but thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's been our pleasure, and I look forward to having you on again sometime in the future when you got some more to share with us. It'll be good.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Take care. Hey, just a quick reminder to everyone. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do you have more to add to what we shared today? Drop us your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. We genuinely value your input. So if you know of other AI innovators that should be on the show, connect us with them. Go to our website and contact us directly. Together, we can make a difference.